I miss the soft kisses. Audacity, let's get you going. Look at that, we're all on time, mostly.
Look at that. Up and running. Yeah, 6:33 and everybody's in the door. That's impressive for us.
That is impressive. It's because of the big comeback. It's a lot of hype. A lot of hype with this pod. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of the dog and then I'll be right back. Just hold on.
Yeah, we don't need to hear Leonard's grunting.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Press X the podcast, where crew that was at the beginning has become one once again. I'm your host, Paul. Alongside me, he's back. He's got one house to his name. It's Shawn Petraschuk.
One house. Woo! The deal is done, and after 3 weeks of keeping my house inhumanly clean, like nobody lives that clean, you could have eaten a meal off of my toilet seats. Like, that's how clean I had to keep my house. And the house sold. And within a day, it was just a shitstorm again. We just stopped caring. It's not a house now.
Screw this place.
Yeah, no, the deal is done, and now we can focus on, we've got another 6 weeks or so before we move, though. So now it's phase 2 packing. Woo!
One stress down, another stress to go.
I think, you know what, though? I mean, I've moved more than I probably would like. I hate doing it. I don't think anybody likes moving.
No.
But one of the things is, as long as you, like, we're being a little bit more proactive this time in that we've already started packing. Like, nice. We already have things in boxes. I'm really bad leaving it to, like, the last week. And then, like, the day before you move, the movers are going to be there in the morning. And you're just randomly throwing anything you can find into a box. And you're like, you hope it doesn't break, whatever. You just chuck it in there and you label it shit. Because you don't know what's in there anymore. And it's done. But yeah, we're being super proactive, getting rid of a lot of stuff, doing a big old purge. Anybody need some furniture? Who wants some furniture? Paul, you want a couch?
No, I don't.
Damn, and I can give it away on Craigslist. When you put things on Craigslist for free, it's like the vultures are circling.
Oh yeah, they'll come out in droves.
No, it's even better when they're like, "Oh, can you deliver it to me in Vancouver?" And I live like an hour out of town. I'm like, "The fuck I will." Pretty sure I'm giving it away for free, so I'm thinking you can come get it.
It's on my driveway right now, so you better hurry.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Like, I'll tell you what, the guy who lives 5 minutes from me, who's willing to pick it up, let's have a race. Let's see who gets here first.
Yep. Good luck. In any case, welcome back to the cast. And as almost always, Trevor Houston.
Heyo.
What's new? I'm sure you've built up something that you got to get off your chest in the last few weeks, Shawn.
Me? I don't know. I mean, right now I'm just happy to have the band back together.
Wow.
It's like the second coming of the Beatles.
The boys are back in town.
Well, I don't know. I mean, actually, I spent, apart from keeping my house inhumanly clean, on any off time I did have, I just, I managed to plow through the rest of God of War. And
sure did.
It so sure is I mean, I think it's fair to say we're past the point of spoiler territory. Like, you've either played it or you're going to mute it right about now for the next couple minutes.
Let's blow the doors off this thing. And
well, yeah,
if you don't want to hear it, you should fast forward probably a good 10
minutes. 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Let's
say 10.
I do know Alex picked it up yesterday, and he's definitely one of our loyal listeners. So, Alex, if you're listening, you might want to.
You know what we could do? We'll just make sure that we put in the comments the time we start and the time we stop. How about that?
Yeah, I'll throw a timestamp.
There we go. That's fair to the people who maybe haven't gotten all the way through. But in terms of a game that this early into the year is pretty much vying for Game of the Year, this is a heavy contender.
Oh,
I mean,
boy. Fuck, that's a given.
In every way, though, I mean, I not once did I bore of the combat. Not once did I ever stand back and go, everything's starting to blend together. I mean, every area is unique. The battles are unique. Everything is just so unbelievably epic. And then, I mean, I've seen so much conversation. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, where, wherever you go, like whether it's Twitter or articles. I mean, there's been articles written about this, about the way you might perceive this if you're a parent versus if you're not a parent. I don't know if there's much of a difference, because I think everybody has that sort of human condition. So watching the relationship build between Kratos and Atreus, and especially up to that end, right, when the mirrors are revealed and you find out why you've been making that journey all along, like I had goosebumps at that point. Like I was so emotionally invested that I was just like, holy shit. Like it actually impacted me quite a bit. I mean, I would imagine it had to have been the same for you, Trevor. I mean, but also even for you, Paul, like even though you're not a parent, you know what I mean?
As a non-father, I was absolutely on the same page. Like it was, the mural reveal was fantastic. And even the walk up the stairs when you're in Jotunheim, I know you could run up the stairs, but I was like, no, we're going to walk up the stairs to this epic music. And the ending couldn't have been better in my mind. Like they just knocked it out of the park, where so many games stumble. It was perfect. Yeah.
And I mean, for me too, I think adding Mimir into the equation, adding that third voice was really impactful. You know what I mean? I really appreciated the levity that Mimir brought, but also the knowledge that he brought, because Mimir and Kratos played off each other very often, and I would say, I mean, I'd even venture to say that both Mimir and Kratos helped evolve Atreus as a character as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Seeing how Atreus turned in, I mean, I got to that point where I'm like, hey, you little shit. Like Atreus got cocky and stuff like that, and how Kratos was like wrestling with the idea of bringing him back down a little bit and saying, hey, this is a responsibility. You need to understand what this actually means. It all came to a climax so well. And then at the end of it all, I'm sure you both managed to go home and have a little sleep at the end.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool. That was very cool.
It was super cool, and I mean, if anything, it landed credence, or it added a little bit of credence to the fact that, like, as soon as you found out that, your mother wanted to name you Loki, I'm like, holy fuck, whoa, right? And then, but that was enough for me. I was already like, okay, wow, what's going on here? And then the fact that they do that, and Thor is there, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
That's pretty rad.
They're sticking, there's no way they're not making another one.
God, they have to. They have to.
Well, that's what that lead-in was. But knowing that they're going to stay into that Norse mythology, but then also that, I mean, essentially, Atreus would be Thor's brother. Like he is. He like in proper mythology. If they follow that mythology, I guess he would be the half brother. So apart from the fact that Kratos' wife was a whore. I'm kidding. I'm joking. But so she obviously, Atreus' mother obviously is Thor's mother, or is that just me? Like, does that not make sense?
Does to me.
Yeah, right. So, like, I mean, what they're gonna do with that, and I mean, it's funny too. If you think back over the whole thing, you can kind of see how Atreus is already living up to the idea of being the god of mischief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? You can see just in his mannerism.
Huh. I can't wait to see Freya as a villain, because she'll definitely be a villain in the second game, and time will tell if she comes back around to the good side for the final installment in what is definitely going to be a trilogy after this many sales. But
it's interesting too, because like she was such a good character in that, like, so I don't think that they would take the road of her being vilified as a permanent thing, because she's just too good.
Yeah, there's got to be something that'll swap her back.
Yeah, I mean, talk about those, like, in terms of like the combat as well. I mean, the first thing that kind of floored you about the game was your first battle with the stranger, right? That was the first battle where you went, this is what I'm in for. Oh, holy shit, sign me up. And then the last battle you fight with Baldur, you're like, okay, it's like it comes around full circle. You know what I mean? And this is discounting the Valkyries, because fuck those things, man. God. But I mean, it's the epitome of the battles at that point, right? I mean, yeah, I don't really have a single bad thing to say about that game. It was just too good. It was just too good.
And those battle sequences were just something else. Like, I mean, you just ran the gamut of emotions, and I found them incredibly challenging, especially at the end. Like, I died and died and died, and I wanted to knock down that difficulty so bad. That's so many points, but
what were you playing it on? What were you playing it on?
The balanced, I think it was called balanced.
Like the normal.
Yeah, normal setting, and I found it incredibly difficult, especially at the end.
I don't know if it's maybe just because I spent a fair amount of time wandering and leveling up in certain spots. I didn't find too many battles, at least in the main campaign, anything that took me too off guard. Like when you fought the dragon, no big deal. I got through it. And then the last battle with Baldur, I think I got pretty close, but I didn't die either. I know a lot of people were playing it on, significantly higher difficulties, because I think there's another 2 or if not 3 difficulty levels. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that. I'm not the type of gamer where I want to challenge myself to the point of frustration. Probably why I never got into Dark Souls. But there are battles like when you go to close one of the rifts and suddenly, you're at like a level 4 and you've got like this level 7 son of a bitch who wants to take you out, and you're like, yeah, I'm fucked. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like me and all the Valkyries at this point. They're just so freaking hard, and I've made it up my mind that I want to best them all, but it's going to be a while.
How high can your character go? Because I only made it to like a low 5.
That's probably why that's why you were having trouble, Trev.
I finished on a 5.
Well, I didn't do any of the side missions or anything like that. I just plowed through the story.
You know what though? To be completely honest with you, you're missing a lot, because a lot of the side stuff is very it adds to the story. I mean, about the only thing that I would say, I mean, if I was forced to go, okay, hey, what's something that you would criticize it for, is if you're hitting a lot of these side quests when you're later on into the actual campaign, where your relationship with Atreus is changing. Sometimes some of the side missions can be off-putting, because Atreus goes from being this cocky little shitbird to like asking more reflective questions and things that he might have done earlier on in the campaign. So it pulls you out just ever so slightly, but it's very minor. But they all lend themselves. All those side quests lend themselves to really developing that relationship between Kratos and Atreus, like a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the character of Mimir comes through too, and my brother was actually saying the reason that is so brilliant is they bring a third character into your party without you having to worry about that during combat, which I think is really on point. That he adds so much to the lore of the story, because not a lot of people are that familiar with Norse mythology, and he's got so much information to dole out.
I mean, he's helpful too. Like, he tells you to watch your back.
Yeah, he does.
I found myself listening to him. He's like, "Watch your back, brother." I'm like, "Oh shit, what's behind me?"
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad to have wrapped that one up. That one was just that it was such a great experience, and I mean, kudos to the team on that one, because I mean, I don't know anybody who would, apart from Gertzman, who says stupid things about stupid things.
Like, he hates everything now. What is this?
Yeah, he's
like, how do you dislike God of War? I don't understand.
Everything is up for like criticism, and I've never been the type to go, your criticism is invalid. You know what I mean? Because everybody has different interpretations of things.
Sure.
And we all know that too, right? Like, we've all been on the receiving end of abuse for people, who disagree with you.
Oh, yes.
But at what point do you go, nah, that's not making a lot of sense, dude? Like, it looks rough in spots? Fucking where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does?
Yeah, I heard him say that.
Where the fuck does it look rough?
Yeah. It's like, there is one thing I dislike about God of War, and that is that it has completely and utterly spoiled me on pretty much everything else, because almost nothing I've touched since that has played as well or looked as good. So I think the bar has been pushed up a fair bit by this game.
Undoubtedly. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, unless you happen to glance to your left and saw yourself in the mirror, you know, and forgot about that, like there's no parts of that game that look rough. You know what I mean? Like maybe like I just don't get where he would have come up with that at any point in that game. Was there anything where you're like, could have been better?
Maybe one of the icebergs wasn't as detailed as it could be.
Yeah, and I mean,
those icebergs aren't that realistic looking.
I mean, the water was pretty shitty compared to something like Sea of Thieves, but I mean,
but that's literally really the only thing Sea of Thieves has going for it.
Yeah, that's right. They spent $100 million on water.
Yeah.
So I want to leave this segment, but I want to give you guys one more theory that I heard talking with some people about this game, and that theory is that Kratos is actually Tyr.
No.
Because Tyr's the god of war, and Kratos is the god of war.
No.
What if Kratos is Tyr?
No.
Hey, I bet... Here, listen to this, because... They were talking about how cyclical the world is and so on and so forth, and things have already happened. Kratos might be Tyr.
It'd be interesting to see how they tied that in and accounted for his time in Sparta. You know what I mean? Like how they tie those two together, because you know this version of the game that coming over here is, you know, he's in his point of repentance in a sense, right? But then I guess you could ask the question, well, why did he choose to go there? Well, maybe he has a connection. So, I mean, it's an interesting theory, and I'd love to see it played out.
Yeah.
I it's kind of, I mean, who knows what the over-under is on that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'd want to bet on it, but equally, maybe I shouldn't bet against it because it seems plausible.
I'm sure the analysis videos are well on their way. That will tear this apart for the next 4 or 5 years, however long it takes him to come up with the next one.
At least 5 years. I mean, God, Corey Barlog.
You think that long?
When Kotaku quoted him on making 5 more games, he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He's like, "I don't got that kind of time. I'm gonna have one foot in the grave by then."
Well, they do have the engine and a lot of the art and stuff on hand now, so
the base is there. Yeah.
I could see 3 years.
Well,
PS5 launch.
Well, that's the thing. You go, okay, the base is there, but they're likely building on a new platform already.
Yeah.
If you don't think that, like, the high end, especially first party Sony developers have dev kits for the PS5 already, though, they have to. I mean, especially considering they're willing to come out and say that, that the PS4 is, you know, in the final part of its cycle, which seems crazy already, but time flies, I guess.
Yeah, it has been almost 6 years.
I think the reason everybody's so baffled by that whole thing, though, is because we got those mid-cycle boost consoles. We got the Pro, we got the One X, right? So it feels like a shortened cycle. Like, I literally just got the One X. You know what I mean? I only bought my Pro 2 years ago, right?
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't be surprised to see him start shaving off the base models on both sides, getting rid of the base PS4, getting rid of the One S, and just making the top model the standard going forward. Not for the One X yet, but I could see the Pro happening in the next year.
Yeah, and that just comes down to components becoming cheaper, right? I mean, that's just the cycle of things, right? So once the components become a little bit cheaper and they're still making their profit off of that console buy, they'll drop the price, right? I mean, it's not like we've all been around the block for numerous console launches at this point, so we kind of know how it works. I mean, I do see us moving more towards, you know, where the platform doesn't change so much. You know what I mean? Like the platform remains the same, and then, you know, they're adding in the same way they already have the Pro, the One X, but everything that base is still the same thing. But who knows? Who knows? All I know is that it's pretty much plausible that 2020 they're saying to 2021 that we're going to have a new PlayStation. It seems about right to me.
That's what they're saying.
Believe it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Trev, I see you played that sweet, sweet Heezy. That H1Z1.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. It's awful. It's awful. Like, it's, first of all, I don't know who came first, PUBG or H1Z1, HZ, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's awful. Like, it is a PUBG ripoff. And it's
it did come before.
Did it come before?
Yeah.
Well, whatever. They're both
been around, or Z1's been around for a while.
They're both just complete. I played it a little bit in the last couple days, and I'm like, why are 4.5 million people playing this game? It is exactly like PUBG. Like, it is the exact same thing where the combat just doesn't feel great. It's yet another big battle royale. I was just irritated playing it, just thinking, why are so many people playing this? It's just more PUBG.
But could you not argue, though, that, like, pretty much almost with any of the battle royales where, like, it's just another
but at least
option
Fortnite
of the same equation, in a sense?
At least Fortnite feels different, and it has that sort of the building mechanic that that I haven't mastered at all. That's too much for me, man.
I saw something today about like, you know, like where, I'm facing off with a guy in Fortnite, and I'm about to narrow him down, and then he builds a condo and a hotel and blah, blah, blah in 2 seconds. And he's like, and I turn and run because some people are just so skilled at dropping. Just like, I saw this thing, like these people were up on like a platform, like 200 feet up in the air. Like he had his whole squad with him. And then he shoots out the platform and they're all falling to their damn deaths or however it works. And then just as they're about to hit the ground, dude throws, what do they call it? The tilted tower or whatever, like the thing where it comes up and you've got like the kind of like the diagonal walls for protection or whatever at the top of it. He drops that just as they're about to hit the ground, and then they just slaughtered everybody. And in my head, I'm like, I would never think of that. Not once, not ever would I think of doing that.
Yeah, it's impressive what people are doing in that game. But I mean, at least it feels different. Like Fortnite feels quite a bit different than PUBG. It feels fresh. I mean, it even has an entirely different look. But PUBG and H1, like they are nearly identical, except for, you know, there's this toxic gas that's closing you in. But man, they are scary identical. And I mean, I'm curious to see what people are playing that game. Like, if you're playing H1, like, tell me why. Like, I'm really curious why, because I see nothing there that we haven't already been playing for the past 6 months. Yeah.
You know, too, like, I mean, if there's enough similarity, I mean, but I'm almost entirely certain that H1Z1 was before PUBG. I know that today news came through that Bluehole are actually taking Epic to court, specifically in South Korea, for like infraction of copyright and because the game is too similar. Like the guys from Bluehole are basically acting like Battle Royale is theirs and no other game can kind of bite their steez. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they were to win it, I mean, South Korea is a hotbed for esports, so I mean, that actually could hurt the bottom line for Fortnite. Who knows?
Maybe.
But I mean, it seems kind of ridiculous, right? Like that's like id, you know, with Doom copyrighting, like basically suing anybody who makes a first-person shooter. It just seems out to lunch. But
they're completely different. PUBG, you jump out of a plane. Fortnite, you jump out of a flaming bus. So
see, I mean, that's not even close to the same. I mean, let's be serious here.
Yeah, and let's really get serious. That game is so not for me. I've tried it so many times, and I just cannot. I don't understand the appeal.
What's that, Fortnite?
I can't get on board.
I need to be careful about what I say, because you know, I like when my paychecks come in on every 2 weeks. But again, I mean, it's one of those things. It isn't for everybody, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not on the Battle Royale hate bandwagon as much as I was. Like, I like it when other people enjoy things, but I'm with you, Paul. It's just not a game that I would choose to play.
Yep.
But to be fair, I avoid almost all multiplayer, period.
Mm.
I don't play well with others. Well, I mean, unless they're pals, right? Like, but I don't know. I don't get the appeal.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be firing up 8. Like, I mean, I guess because the beta was just released on the PS4, and I was like, oh, let's give it a go. But I won't be playing it again. Like, I'm just not interested. There was nothing there that I found that was significantly different than what I had already played. I mean, I guess H1's got some customization things there that are different than PUBG, but man, it was just more of the same old. Big, massive map, race to get to the middle, try and survive, try and win. That's really what it is. I'm more interested to talk about another game, though, that I've been playing that I'm really digging so far, is Detroit Become Human. I am really, really digging it. I mean, it's a slow pace to the point where I had to make a pot of coffee the other day because I was falling asleep playing it. I'm like, fuck, this is, I'm like, oh man, I was already tired to begin with. So I'm like, I got to make a pot of coffee, wake up and start playing. Cause it's
that's different. So you were already dead in the water.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a slower pace than I'm used to, right? Like you're really got to take your time and investigate, the different rooms and whatnot. But I am loving the emotional connection that I am having with these android characters.
This game is killing me right now.
Right, and I'm really enjoying the story. I'm only about a couple of hours in so far, but yeah, I love the direction where it's headed. It's nice to see Lance Henriksen in the game. One of my favorites from Aliens and Terminator back in the day. But yeah, I'm interested to see where the story's going. I'm happy I made that $89.99 Canadian.
Yeah, that's not cheap. Not cheap.
Yeah, I'm happy I made that purchase because I was really on the fence. I was like, it's a lot of money for this game, but Aaron spoke highly of it, and a lot of other reviewers liked it. So I'm like, you know what? I need to give this game a go, and I'm really happy that I did. It's a nice change of pace from God of War, that's for sure.
First things first. I think what I need to do is do with you, Trevor, what I've done with a buddy of mine. His PlayStation 4 console is technically my home console, so he gets all the games that I got over the course of however many years. And he basically he got his PlayStation like 6 months ago, and he's bought one game, and he's like, and you've got 150 for me to download. And he was going to download, I like to give him shit, he was going to download Owlboy. And he's like, it's $5 cheaper on the Xbox. I'm not buying it. And I'm like, I gave you 150 games, you son of a bitch. Just buy a fucking game. But now that I'm not on that sweet I own a website train anymore, I think I might need to just hang on your teat a little bit, Trevor, and tie into your console for some free games, because I spent the money on that sucker too. And it's funny. I don't know if I found it necessarily slow paced, but in terms of getting sucked into the narrative, it was almost immediate.
Well, I found it started out with a bang. Like that first, which is basically a tutorial level, I found it like incredibly intense. Like I was like, wow, because I never played the demo. So I was right into it.
That first scene, and I think it's fair to be able to say that we can talk about the first scene. We're definitely well into spoiler territory still because the game is so new. But in the first scene, that's that demo.
Yeah, so that's what I heard.
You're there with Connor, and you're tasked to, the android, the deviant android, holding the little girl hostage. We've talked about this in previews already. Right. A year ago.
E3, you talked about it.
Exactly. But in terms of tension, it ramped the tension up immediately. Mm-hmm. You were invested not only in Connor, but you learned the history and the story of why David, the android, is in the situation that he's in. So you're also in that thing, in that circle of where you've got a compassion for a character that you don't control. And that very much sets the tone for the rest of the way that you're going to play the game. Not only do you have characters that you control that you care about what happens around them. And I mean, I've already been faced with, I'm at the point now where in every chapter, I actually come out, they have the flow chart, right? I don't feel like this is a spoiler in any way. They have the flow chart that basically just shows you all the branches,
Yeah.
All the different ways that the story can go. And in some of those chapters, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of ways that it can go. Mm-hmm. And I chose they have the 2 modes, which is basically your easy, enjoy the story, and then you're almost standard. They're like hard but fair. Basically, where you really need to think about the decisions or the choices you're going to make, but you need to make them fast. But impacts are there, and to the point where your character can die. You're like, whoa, like that's actually pretty heavy. So I'm following this flow chart going, okay, where am I now? All right, this is where I'm at. Okay, here comes some big choices. Oh my God, what do I do? And I'm just finding that like my heart is thumping as I'm coming up to some of these decisions. Like it's really crazy how quickly I got pulled in. And I know, like say, I've seen stuff. Tyler reviewed it for Tyler Treese. Was it Game Rant he covered it for, or Screen Rant?
Screen Rant.
Yeah. And Jess Joho, she wrote a pretty scathing article against it about how, and we've had this discussion in Slack about how tone deaf the game is. And I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing some stuff.
I'm not seeing it either yet, actually.
No. I'm seeing some stuff where it's like when you're given your option, you have 4 things that you can choose from as the direction that you want your response to head in, right? So it's an emotional style response where people are calling it tone deaf, and I kind of more see it as something lost in translation a little bit. The meaning behind it is still pure. It's just they're struggling to find a way to tell you what they're trying to say, I guess. I mean, it's hard to explain until you actually play it, but I think the heart of it is still heading in a very positive direction in terms of what it's trying to show people, and what it's like to have that human condition where you care about things, but you're suddenly put in the position of something like, as in like thinking from the mind of a deviant android. It's yeah, I don't know. I don't find it tone deaf.
Maybe it'll change the more the more we play, the more I play. But so far, all I'm seeing is humans are treating the robots like shit. That's really what it's boiling down to so far, and I don't find it tone deaf yet at all. I just feel that it's a case of like the humans so far. A couple hours in, they're just not treating the androids very well at all.
Well, and two, I think the people that are calling it tone deaf, in a sense, are like trying very hard to equate it to the real world. In a sense, they're like, oh, well, let's talk about race relations in the United States or in Canada or in the world in general, to be fair. And I can see how you're going to draw those lines, A to B type thing. I get where they're drawing those lines, but that's not what the game is. The game, it's androids, and I think that sometimes people look, to draw parallels where parallels don't need to be drawn. And sometimes you just need to sit back and go, this is actually a pretty cool game. But again, we are in an industry where criticism is abundant, especially criticism of art. So I get it. I understand it. I think maybe I just don't agree with it. I've always been a little bit more, I tend to give a little bit more leeway in that regard, where I go, that's not what I'm looking for. That's not the experience. I don't want to rip it apart. It actually, funny thing is, the way that it gets ripped apart reminds me of, I was in 12th grade, and The Rime of the Ancient Mariner is a poem. I was in an English class, and we got to this whole, what did the writer mean, and what did this, and what is that, and we came up with our ideas, and like when we're coming up with what we're thinking about, this is what the author meant. It's either, the response we get, you're wrong, this is what the author meant, and da-da-da-da. And I remember turning to my teacher at the time, who was ripping me apart. I was in 11th grade, in a 12th grade, what do you call it, like enhanced or whatever. Like, so it was basically like being an English lit in your first year of university. I was in 11th grade. And she's telling me that I'm wrong. And I'm like, bitch, this shit was written in 1890 something. Were you fucking alive? Are you in his head? Shut up. It means what I think it means. And it is what it is. But again, it was that idea, though. I enjoyed the poetry, but I didn't love the idea of, now we need to rip it to shit and dissect it. So maybe that affected me. Who knows? Moving forward, where I go, I don't want to go into every minute detail. I'm willing to criticize it, but I'm not willing to go in so deep that it ruins that experience for me that was just meant to entertain me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shawn, and feel very strongly about this, that if you're looking at something that is meant to be a piece of art, and regardless of whether that has come from David Cage or not, and he's got, his own issues personally, but you've got to let the thing be the thing. It's about humans and androids. It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about any of those other things, which are absolutely valuable things to be talking about, but you've got to let it be what it's going to be. You can't shoehorn whatever you want to talk about into something that wasn't designed for that, if that makes sense. And I think that's where people are going wrong with this game. As somebody who hasn't played the full game yet, but playing the demo, I had an immediate connection to Connor and,
for sure.
and the actor's delivery of the lines, where you can see the humanity in there, but it's still a very mechanical and measured delivery. I'm very excited to play the full game, and in fact, that's going to do it for the podcast. No, I'm kidding.
And I'm out.
That's it. Yeah, I gotta play.
You guys finish up. I gotta go play Detroit.
No, but I think I think that's exactly, obviously we're thinking very alike in that. There are certain games that beg to be dissected, where they approach things more on the nose. But this is a fantastical story in a sense, right? And you need to approach it as that. It's not like, I don't know. Back when Heavy Rain came out, did people dissect it against real world issues then? No.
No.
The game was the game, and they took it as is. But this is something that I see more and more. We're in an industry where people love to act like they're faux offended by shit. They like to, people like to get on their high horse and act like their opinion is better than others. I see it more and more all the time, and sometimes it can be hard to. I find now that what I tend to do when that sort of stuff comes up is I just disassociate myself. I'm like, I'm just gonna. My job doesn't allow me to necessarily speak my mind on everything that I would like to speak my mind on too, especially on something like Twitter. But when it comes to something like Detroit, even though we want to take that step back and just enjoy it as a game, there's a million people out there who want to just rip it apart and turn it into a spectacle. You know what I mean? You're not going to get away from it. You just need to exercise that mute button real well. Like, I have a few select people that I have muted on Twitter, because now they have the mute similar as they do on Facebook, where they don't know that you muted them. You're just like, I just don't want to actually see your bullshit. There's a lot I can't be happily, like, especially if there's somebody influential, they can't know that I blocked them.
Well, if they'd shut their yap once in a while, you wouldn't have to mute them, Shawn.
I know, and that's the sad fact. But again, in terms of job preservation, there's a couple people that I got muted, but I need to maintain a relationship with.
We can discuss that later.
It's not you. It's not you.
We can talk about who that is after the cast.
It's somebody else.
Yeah. Oh, any other games to talk about? I can't really talk about what I'm playing right now because it's under embargo.
What you're playing.
Yes, I am playing Vampyr from Don't Nod and Focus Home Interactive, but I can't talk about it till next week.
Well, there you go. It leaves everybody. That's like a game of just the tip.
Mm-hmm.
Which for about 6 months I thought it was called Vampyr, the way it was spelt, until I watched a video and somebody called it Vampire. I'm like, oh well. I guess it's just called Vampyr, not Vampyr.
So you're telling me that up until now you haven't seen a single trailer?
Not the sharpest tool in the shed, boys. Not the sharpest tool.
Vampyr.
Vampyr. What's this Vampyr game? Oh, wait a minute. It's Vampyr.
Weird.
Oh, it's
I wonder
Vampyr.
why they didn't just name it Vampyr.
Oh, they just spelt it funny, those fuckers.
Well, they're French, so they can do what they want with spelling, as it turns out. Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the news?
The news, the news, the news, the news.
I thought by now, Paul, you've been serving up so many delicious little tidbits on Slack that I thought for sure by now you would actually have it on like a sampler where you could just
a soundboard.
Yeah, so the trick there would be piping it through the interwebs so that you guys could hear. Which is something I haven't tackled. Later? Oh yeah, I can add in whatever I want, wherever I want, as many times as I want.
You need to start abusing your authority in doing these things.
Yes, producer trumps. Producer can do anything.
Yep, producer seducer, as they say in Kind of Funny territory.
Yeah, they do indeed. So what happened this week? We talked about that H1Z1 Battlefield 5 was revealed. Unsurprisingly, it's coming out in October.
It looks pretty cool.
Does it?
In the trailer. The trailer looks pretty cool.
It looks like a game that I won't personally play, but it looks fine. I mean, I don't think Battlefield's ever really pulled me in, right? So like it's hard for me to judge of like whether it's going to be good or bad. But for people who are fans, it looks fine. It looks good.
Yeah, I mean, I think what jumped out at me is the 4-player co-op. I think I saw that somewhere where it's going to have 4-player co-op, which sounds pretty cool. And apparently there's going to be a lot of customizations. That's pretty cool.
You know what isn't cool? That we didn't ever secure the website and the domain for 4-player co-op. Remember when we talked about it like 3 years ago?
We had it for a while. We had that domain for a while, and then we just let it go.
There's so many things doing 4-player co-op now, and then we could just like slide James's big old head on in here and have be it like what do you call a quartet? We'd be a quartet up here in the podcasts, but we would call it 4-player co-op. We missed that chance.
We may have.
Yeah.
The opportunity might come around again.
Now. Someone else has it by now.
You think? Maybe.
It's too popular. There's so many games with 4-player co-op now.
True.
Squad up, bro.
Squad up or die.
I mean, I am curious though. Like back on Battlefield 5. Now I'm hearing there's not going to be a season's pass or an expansion, but they're going to have a pro-consumer business model. What the fuck does that mean?
I think they might be backpedaling on that too. Because what I read that as is loot boxes that have guaranteed rewards. But it sounds like they're kind of backpedaling on that too, and there will not be any more what they were calling battle boxes.
Okay, but in giving the benefit of the doubt, we'll say they learned their lesson.
You hope?
Well, no, but we've all acknowledged in the past, I mean, I'm talking about the three of us, that games are expensive. Games are crazy expensive to make. Yeah. Now, unless we want our base game to go up in its purchase price, they need to facilitate extra funds via some type of micro. Perfectly fine. If they are making sure that is cosmetic. You know, I mean, you look at I mean, I'm going to use Fortnite as the example. These guys, Epic just put $100 million down for tournament funds. You know what I mean? Which basically shows you how much money they're making on literally cosmetic items. The game is good. People like it. Yeah. So they sell cosmetics. They're making money hand over fist. End of story. Right?
Yeah, I think it's a battle pass that most people have. Whatever you get.
The thing is, though, too, but by saying pro-consumer, what they're saying is, look, we're not going to try and take you to the cleaners for shit you don't want and or don't need. You want this stuff? Whatever. Get it. Don't.
Well,
the game's
pardon
not
me for being that guy, but I don't believe them until I see it with my own two eyes.
Well, no, I mean, it's fair to be skeptical. Don't get me wrong. It's completely fair to be skeptical. But my only justification here would be they know that they've got one foot squarely on the side of, we hate you when it comes to the gaming community at large. Are they really willing to make that mistake a second time? You got to think that they're coming in here. This is the next big game since Battlefront 2.
They're going to be careful. They're going to be. They have to be careful.
Okay, exactly. Like, oof, we better take it a little easy on. If we're gonna fuck them, we gotta fuck them when they don't notice, or at least spit on it first. Like, don't go in dry. Spit on it first. Take it easy.
There's a visual.
but it's the truth of it.
Sound biting that. I'm sound biting it.
But it's the truth of it, though, right? Like, they're always out there to make money. We can't deny that. But if I'm going to be taken for a ride, at least make it worth it. And, so they can't just be so bold as to blatantly try and take our money and take us for fools. They have to be super, super careful. So,
they will be. I'm pretty confident they will be, but I'm also the same camp of Paul. Be like, I think games like that, AAA shooters like that, they bank on those loot boxes. They bank on the expansion packs and the season's passes. Like they count on all that stuff. So when Battlefield's coming out and Dyson's saying like, no, we're not gonna have expansions. We're not gonna have a season's pass. Instead, we're gonna have something really friendly for you all.
Well,
it's like,
really, you know how they're gonna make their extra money. They've obviously we are obviously going to dive into this. Apparently, a lot of people were upset about the inclusion of women, especially the woman being on the cover. I think this is a smart move by DICE because most of these assholes are going to buy the game anyway. But if they want to make sure 100% that they avoid having a woman on the cover of the game that they buy, they can buy the version that's $20 more expensive that has a dude on the cover. That's where they're going to make all their money.
Is that right? Like the more expensive, like special edition,
the other version has a dude on the cover.
Get out. For real?
The elite version or whatever has a dude.
That's amazing. Well played. Well played, DICE.
I did a lot of searching on Twitter to find these people that are apparently mad about this, but I had zero success. Did either of you actually see who and how many people were actually mad about this?
I saw a lot in terms of most of it was like YouTube comments, stuff like that. There was some stuff going on Twitter, but the interesting thing is literally we're talking about accounts that have been active for a day at that point.
Right.
They created
like it's probably such a minority, you know what I mean? Like it's such a small minority.
It truly is the
shit disturbers.
But the problem is that voice gets amplified in terms of like where, the rest of us pick up on it and, there's comments on their comments. And in the end, I mean, I know a lot of women in this industry and it's a step back for all of them because it just makes it harder for them to just speak their minds on a daily basis when they know that there's this kind of vitriol out there that's so willing to speak against them. I mean, it's garbage. I mean, I don't think I'm alone in saying that. I mean, I know that both of you guys are, very much on the same page. I mean, I saw something where, basically trying to discredit the fact that there's a female on the cover because women were not in, World War II, apparently. But then, like, going on about how, like, the prosthetic arm that she had was bullshit, trying to play the realism game until somebody literally pulled up a picture of a World War II era prosthetic that they put on people in actual situations in World War II. Like, so now that you're done spouting your bullshit, here's the facts. You know what I mean? And I mean,
there was the same bullshit last year with Call of Duty World War II when there was the game had a black guy on the front of the lines and there were some arseholes that were going online. Whoa, wait a minute, there were no black guys on the front lines. Like, that's fucking bullshit. Dude, it's a fucking video game. Like, get a fucking grip.
I mean, honestly, for me, I mean, there are people out there who think like that. I mean, what I would consider, not only backwards thinking, but like harmful thinking. And, not like we can afford to cough up viewers or listeners, but honestly, if you're one of those people, you can fuck right off. Like, I'd rather have you not. Go fuck yourself. Like, that is not the world we live in anymore. And, if you are so insecure in yourself that you cannot handle the fact that there's a woman on a cover of a video game, like, man.
Yeah, get a grab.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what kind of life you live, but man, mine is full. And I think that's awesome. I wouldn't even think, like, I don't bat an eye at it at all. I don't understand it. But
yeah, it never even occurred to me until I heard, like, all the sort of the controversy started to surface. I'm like, what, really, what? People have a problem with what?
But that's the thing. Controversy is a word that we should use very loosely, because there really is no controversy.
No,
it's a few trolls that are spoiling the exactly. The nice fun launch for a whole lot of people who have worked really hard on Battlefield 5. A lot of them who are women. So, like,
but that's the thing.
There were women. Just holster your anger.
There were women who worked on the game who were commenting. Like, there was a comment from a particular developer who works at DICE, who was like, "This is supposed to be my moment to shine, and this is what you guys," and female, obviously, "this is supposed to be my moment to shine, and this is what you focus on." Like, way to take the steam out of our sails, way to make us feel insignificant, and it's just, that's shitty. That's so shitty. But I reinforced literally to anybody that I know personally who was venting about it, that this is exactly, the idea of having a very, very vocal minority. It's like 4chan was on fucking standby. Oh, they're announcing Battlefield 5 today. Ooh, they said something we don't like, and all of 4chan and fucking basement dweller dick cheeses decided that they're going to go out there and comment.
I have to believe that a lot of what gets said is by people who don't actually believe it too, who are just out there looking to get a rise out of people. I have to believe that humanity is not I think, backwards.
I agree, but does that make it? Some of that. But does that make it any better?
No.
The fact that this
really.
Guy's willing, that somebody who is indifferent to it is still willing to make women feel inadequate in this industry. Really, it's probably just as bad, if not worse. The fact that you don't actually believe it, but you just want to shit disturb to make these women who work hard, who do great work, and are just as equal to any other man in this industry, feel like a piece of shit when they go home at the end of the day. You're probably worse.
They're not thinking of that. They don't care about that. They're not thinking of that.
Well, that's the same shitheads that, swat people, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing about the whole realism argument, which, maybe there's an argument to be made there, but the thing is, we don't know who any of these characters are. Like, people are assuming that this is British frontline soldiers. That's not necessarily the case. Like, this could be French resistance or something like that.
Well,
when in that context, how they're dressed and their tactics and stuff would make a lot more sense.
Well, one of the guys I'm pretty sure it was from DICE specifically, that was like joking around on Twitter going, because Battlefield's always, we've always pushed for realism in gaming. And then the GIF that they attached to their tweet was a dude riding a horse with two dudes standing on the back of the horse with another dude firing a flamethrower as they're riding through the desert. And which was basically like throwing it in their face of like, yeah, there's your fucking realism. Like, we're out here to have some fun. Yeah, we want to tell a little history in there. We're going to throw a minor history lesson in there or whatever. But the bottom line is having a good time. And these guys use, the people that are vocal, they use their they use the we're striving for historical accuracy as a way to hide their misogyny. For lack of a better way to explain it, right? Oh, no, we just want realism. No, you don't. Because if you wanted realism, it's like, oh, I'm dead, game's over completely, I'm starting right back from the beginning. It's just a veiled excuse.
The older Battlefield games, like the Battlefield 2 era, was reasonably historically accurate, but they jumped way off that train when they had machine guns and flamethrowers in Battlefield 1, when there clearly was not that kind of technology in 1914.
Well, again, like I say, these guys are using it as a veiled reason for
exactly.
whatever hatred they're trying to cover up when they're calling for accuracy. I mean, yeah, there's some games out there that do accuracy, don't get me wrong, but Battlefield, yeah, they're going to touch on it, but that's not the focus. And so it's kind of bullshit that that's what they're calling. It's just a way for them to be able to get their hatred out in whatever way, shape, or form, that they want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's got an axe to grind. And I'm sure you specifically have quite an axe to grind about this next story, Shawn. There's a game on Steam called Active Shooter.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Jesus.
What is that?
People are fucking calling Detroit tone deaf? Like, what was this fucking jackass thinking when he uploaded this shit to Steam? And what the fuck was Steam thinking when they let it through? What the hell?
Steam has
from what I understand, and we talked about this last week or the week before, that pretty much anybody can load a game on Steam, and I think it only costs them $100 for the publisher rights or whatever it is. I think it costs anybody can load a game on Steam for $100. And I think what you're seeing is you got a game from some dude who knows who that wants to do anything for a little bit of attention to generate some kind of sales, and voila, here it is. We're talking about it on the Press X podcast.
Oh, but man, I would love for this dipshit to out himself as the fucking asshole behind something like this, especially when you look at the news over the past few weeks alone. There's a fucking shooting every other day in the States right now, and school shootings are through the fucking roof. Like, it is insane. Like, we are at a crossroads here of where anybody who has a brain in their head is going, gun control might actually be a thing you want to fucking look at. And this guy has the audacity when there's literally today, at the moment we are recording this, there is probably somebody who is burying a child, or at least visiting a child in the hospital, for example, who is a victim of a school shooting in the United States today, at this very fucking moment. And this guy is absolutely idiotic enough to put that out there because they want to make $1.
I'm sure it's going to be pulled by now. I heard it wasn't actually out until June sometime.
Well, it should be out never. It should be out never.
Yeah, I mean, surely Valve will step in and just yank that, because it is kind of ridiculous that it's out there.
Well, I mean, are they going to step in because of controversy, or would they have ever stepped in if it had managed to fly under the radar? I mean, I'm looking at the actual description for the game, right? Active shooter, the simulation. Pick your role, gear up, and fight or destroy. Be the good guy or the bad guy. The choice is yours. Oh, look, exclamation point. This is exciting. I'm so excited right now. Only an active shooter, you'll be able to pick the role of an elite SWAT team member or the actual shooter. They refer to this game as a school shooting simulation. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, where's your compassion for anybody who suffers from this? Anybody who has ever suffered from this?
Well, any fucking weirdo or lunatic can make a game and put out like this, but hopefully people have the right sense of mind to not buy something like that, and hopefully Valve has some sort of screening process where they're making sure games like this aren't published on their system.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm all for free speech, and I think it's one of the most important things in society.
I agree.
But
yeah, okay.
I mean, I think Steam should have seen through this one, maybe just a little bit, and not published it on their platforms. That's this
is not good. They say that any publicity is good publicity. This is not.
Not for Steam.
You can't spin this. I mean, they're literally saying in the description, slaughter as many civilians as possible. If this wasn't such a problem, especially in the States at this point in time, maybe they might have been able to get away with this. But considering the situation where, literally, was it in Indiana, I think it was, 2 days ago? I mean, luckily nobody died. This is one of those, the school shootings where nobody died. But, a couple people put in the hospital and everything else. But it literally happened 2 days ago. and then it happened in Santa Fe, and it happened in
well,
Florida.
there'll be another one. There'll be another one.
There'll be another one next week.
Yeah.
And I mean, the sad thing is, I mean, maybe we get a bit of a skewed look at it, being that we're all here in Canada. But I remember a time, let's go back 4 years ago, when something like this happened, even in Canada or, here in Vancouver, when you watch the 6 o'clock news, the first thing they talked about was something like that, like a school shooting. That's a big deal. Like, kids died today. That's something worth talking about. Now, you're a half hour in before they even mention it, and it's passing because it's become common. So, I mean, at what point do we need to reevaluate not only the fact that we are becoming numb to it to the point where it's not the first story that we hear, it's a half hour into our news hour, and the fact that somebody actually thought that something like this was okay and that they could put it up there without any sort of return on their investment. You know what I mean? Where people are going to be like, how about you go die in a fire?
I think that people should be allowed to make content like this, so long as it's not directly inciting violence or promoting it. But I think Steam should have done a better job at making sure that it met their standards, which are admittedly lax at this point.
Well, see, and I mean, to be honest, I think that's fair. Basically, look, like, if you want to create this bag of shit, that's up to you. And if you want to host it on your own server and give it away for free, all right, whatever. But to put it on a platform that's supposed to have standards. You know what I mean? Because it's up to those platforms. I mean, free speech is one thing, but every platform has their own set of standards where they go, yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want, but you're not doing it here. Right? Yep. They reserve the right to do that. And it seems to me like they kind of screwed the pooch on this one.
Oh, I would like to not give active shooter any more attention. And what else have we got on the news?
Well, we've got one more story, and this one's actually much more positive. So at the beginning of Detroit Become Human, it gives you the option to take part in a survey. And
how far is the survey into the game? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but
I don't know.
Curious where you get running.
It's not in the game proper. You'll find it actually in the menu.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
You can access it at any time in the menu, and then at some points where, if you're quitting the main game and you're going back to the menu, when you quickly whip into the menu, you'll be like, hey, we have this neat survey for you. And the very first question that the survey asks you is, would you consider having a relationship with an android that looks like a human?
67% of people said yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now wait a minute. They're not asking if you're going to have sex with this robot.
What the fuck do you think relations mean?
Relationship. What does the question say?
No. Everybody who read that basically equated relationship with, would I fuck a robot?
I think that's fantastic and inclusive.
You would not.
That's inclusive as shit. I'm with you on that.
Don't you guys think so?
I'll tell you what.
That's awesome that the people who are playing Detroit are open-minded enough to consider androids people.
Is it because they're open-minded, or is it because they don't get laid much?
Or they're dirty? It's
probably both. It's all of the above.
I gotta admit, okay, before I even saw this particular news piece, I had already ventured in, because like I said, it's in the main menu. You scroll all the way to the right and it says survey.
I'll have to check that out.
What's this? Survey. And I click into it, and that's the very first question, is the relationship with an android. And I felt so uncomfortable that I just noped out. I'm like, nope, not doing the survey. Fuck the survey. And I noped out. I canceled and I was gone. And I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I should have just answered the question if I'm apparently a good and proper human being. I'm like, no, that's gross. Sex with robots, no.
Yeah, right? Like, no shit. Like,
but the fact that it made me uncomfortable.
No,
but here, the fact that it made me uncomfortable, and that I'm a little bit ways into the game, and I'm like, Kara's kind of hot. Like, whoa, this question is making me think things, and I don't know if I like it. So I just noped out. So maybe if I'd answered that question, with my true answers, maybe at the time of the writing of this article, that 68% of people would have answered yes to this question. Who knows? But all I know is it made me feel very uncomfortable and almost like, fuck this survey. And that was it.
You know, knowing David Cage's history, I think the fact that you were uncomfortable means that he's done his job in the true David Cage way.
As our boy Shawn Messler once exclaimed, Detroit is a David Cage-ass David Cage game.
Yeah.
And I am seeing it, man. I mean, he's pushing buttons where they're supposed to be pushed.
Yep, it is maximum David Cage. But that's all the news. That's it.
That's a wrap.
That's all.
That's all. Well, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a slow week. I mean, we had lots to talk about.
No, we
sure
did.
did.
Yeah.
I'd say before we maybe go too much further, I would like to, no matter what side of the fence you're on, to him as a human being, that the game industry as a whole definitely lost somebody important to them with the passing of John Bain / Totalbiscuit. A lot of people, you know, they didn't necessarily like some of his politics, and I can understand that. But the loss of a human life is always bad. And, you know, he maybe made up for some of the shitty things he said. I think he had a lot of interesting things to say as well. So, I mean, the criticism business especially, we lost somebody this week that should at least be acknowledged. So, you know, to his family, obviously, you know, we wish you guys the best. Jenna is his wife. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what you're going through. So a lot of people probably feeling a sense of loss with Biscuit passing.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a huge personality who many often didn't agree with, but he was tireless in his efforts to protect consumers and try to inform people, and while delivering the content that he liked to make. So I think that's a massive loss to games and the gaming industry in general.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know what? When we've talked numerous times, I mean, in our 19 episodes, holy shit, we're at 19. In 19 episodes, we have touched on Hive Mind more times than I can count already. And this is a guy that never bought into Hive Mind. He didn't give a fuck if you liked what he said or not. You agree with me or don't, that's cool. But this is my opinion on things. And I mean, I really appreciate people that have the balls enough to stand out against, you know, that Hive Mind thought. We've been on the receiving end of that at times, and I could imagine it wasn't always easy.
Yeah, and also someone who, when he was disagreed with, was more than happy to talk about it and, you know, come to a consensus and find common ground with people. And I think that's a very admirable characteristic of his. Yeah,
I mean, I think it took him some time. I mean, you know, he even admitted at times where he had people point out to him some of the things he said, and he went, "Oh my God, I said that. I'm so terribly sorry." But we've all been there. I mean, God, like, life is regrets, right? I mean, we've all had regrets over time. The fact that he was able to kind of reevaluate his positioning on things and honestly offer up apologies to people that maybe he had hurt along the way. I mean, that says a lot about his character as well. And I mean, bottom line is, I mean, no matter what, at 33 years old, nobody should be losing their life. I think we can all agree on that. Christ, if someone was to criticize me as the way I was, you know, what I was like as a human being at 33, no one would like me either. You know, I was an asshole at 33. We take time to mature and grow up and you know, change the directions that we're choosing. And he moved in a very positive direction. So, yep. I mean, it's unfortunate. I feel terribly, terribly bad for his family, but a big loss to the gaming community.
Totalbiscuit, may he rest in peace. And with that, we will move on to the releases, which is shockingly thin this week.
I think it's just because of we're 2 weeks away from E3. You're not making waves right now.
You got to be nuts.
Yeah, everybody's in E3 mode.
But they are two pretty good games. So we've got the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection on everything under the sun coming out the 29th. It's Tuesday.
Which our COGconnected's review goes live. By the time this pod goes live, our review will have gone live on COGconnected.com. That's COGconnected on Twitter, COGconnected on Instagram, COGconnected on Facebook, COGconnected on the YouTubes.
What about the Twitters? You missed the Twitters.
The Twitters. We're everywhere. I'm your
like
company man.
You can't get rid of us.
Like a toe fungus.
I watched the HBO Andre the Giant documentary last night, and it was super interesting.
That was so good.
It's super good, but there's one scene where they're talking about the size of Andre's feet, and they literally, it's 1 minute long, where they're just pointing a camera at his feet, and specifically at his big toe, which is literally purple with some sort of disease. You're just staring at a size 22 fucking foot or toe and disease for like a minute.
That's such a I love that documentary. I felt so bad for the guy. Here's this giant that's like has to cram himself in airplanes and wrestle every night. Like, oh yeah, that was a really powerful, excellent documentary, the Andre the Giant one.
You know, it's funny, like just speaking on the power like of not only just like his story specifically, but I mean, I don't know, like my wife is not interested in wrestling at all. She didn't grow up watching wrestling. I mean, for me, I had an identifier. Like I saw WrestleMania 3. You know what I mean? Right. I watched it. Mm-hmm. So for me, there was definitely something that I could tie into. There's memories there. But she was glued to it for the entire hour and a half or whatever as well, because his story was compelling. But it was just so neat how things that we wouldn't have thought about, you know, like until they brought it up, they're like, yeah, he actually couldn't go to the bathroom on planes. I'm like, fuck, you're right.
Yeah.
Holy shit, how did he manage? I mean, and those stories, like, yeah, he'd have to relieve himself in a bucket, and then they'd have to pour a bucket down the drain. Like just some of those things, and then obviously the pain that he was dealing with in his later years.
Right. During WrestleMania 3, he could barely walk.
Yeah. I remember actually, before the Andre the Giant documentary, I mean, I knew about that whole spectacle and that story of when Hulk Hogan didn't know if Andre was going to put him over. And Andre was just fucking with him the whole fucking time going, I don't know yet. I don't know. Like, what a dick, but awesome. Like, because that's exactly what I would do. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, that's a bit of a diversion. What's the other release?
As we got sidetracked.
So glad to have you back. We never would have talked about Andre the Giant.
Well, you know, I mean, that's it's the art of going off in tangential. Is that a word? Tangential directions?
It is.
Yeah, there you go.
Look there you go.
Spouting knowledge and shit.
The other release this week is a game that Shawn is actually repping, and that is Moonlighter.
Yeah.
Oh, our review went live. Yeah, our review went live early this morning. 4 a.m., Shawn. Can you tell me why 4 a.m. was the embargo time? Like, why do you do that to me? 4 a.m.
Okay, I'll tell you why.
He did it.
I know. I will tell you why. It's because 11-Bit Studios is actually based in Poland, and they very much like when news and reviews and basically anything to do with their products drops at a time that is appropriate for them because they're the goddamn developer or publisher. In this case, they're the publisher. So for them, that's like noon. So they don't give a shit about you. They're like, 4 a.m., fuck you guys. It's noon where I live, bitch. So that's literally, like, it's funny. I try to sneak it in. We have news going out. By now, it'll be old news, but we have news going out for just the launch of Moonlighter because it comes out on the 29th. I tried to set the news for 12:01 a.m. Pacific time. So basically, when it rolls over at Pacific time, which is when the game's pretty much available, that's when the embargo is going to be. And they're like, nope. We want to match it to when it goes for us. You know, so there's all the adjustments and stuff. So I've given up arguing, and I just do what I'm told on that one. But the game's actually, I mean, already because the embargo was today. We're recording here on the 28th. It seems to be coming in fairly respectable. People are actually quite enjoying the game, so I'm quite happy to hear it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of positive comments on our video review for that game as well. People are liking the review. They're liking the Scott's take, and yeah, it doesn't seem like there's too much to the game. It's just basically like a shopkeeping type game.
I think there's more to it than some people realize. I mean, I honestly, like, I've picked it up and played it myself, and it gave me some pretty strong Link to the Past type vibes, to be fair.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the idea is that you're a shopkeeper by day and an adventurer by night. You venture into these dungeons to collect your loot to bring back to the shop and sell during the day. But I mean, there's more to it. I mean, not only are you responsible for the shop, you can feed that value that you're bringing back into the town. You're essentially bringing the entire town back to life. And obviously, there's the overarching story of getting all the way through to what they would say, like the fifth door. There's a mystery behind these dungeons as well. But the gameplay loop itself is actually is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm not all that big on what would be considered a roguelike or a roguelite. Those aren't usually my style of game, but I've only spent, I'd say I've played for maybe about 5 hours, give or take, but I've really enjoyed what I've already been doing in the game, and a lot of people seem to be agreeing. So it seems to me like this is a game that's kind of crossing genres a bit, in that, like, people who might not usually be into that kind of game are kind of digging it.
Yeah, it's a kind of game, I think you could latch on to either aspect of it. Like, if you really like the shopkeeping, you would be okay with the dungeon stuff. And if you really like the dungeon stuff, you'd be okay with the shopkeeping. From what I've played, I kind of like both those things. The dungeoning is probably more entertaining as an action-focused gamer, but yeah, it's a good time. Moonlighter.
But that's it. That's literally it this week.
There's
a couple other games literally not worth mentioning, but that's pretty much it.
Yep. Well, that means that we have more time to talk about the email.
Wait. You know what you have to do right now? You need to stall for 30 seconds because I'm deep into my beers and I need to pee.
Okay.
Just keep in mind that whatever you record, I will hear later. So don't say anything nasty about me.
What, does he got to pee?
I guess.
I gotta pee. That's what I just said. I gotta pee.
Remind me why we invited him back.
He's like a toddler. He's like a toddler.
God.
I'm still here, honestly, you son of a bitch.
Fucking thimble-sized bladder.
Okay, go and pee. I gotta pee. I'm into the beers. I gotta pee. Just fucking go. My back, bro.
I think he has to do this every like 2 or 3 podcasts where it's like, oh, sorry guys, I gotta pee. He's like that child that doesn't go before a long trip. Like, okay, kids, like we got a 2-hour drive. Go pee now. Like,
oh, he was totally that kid.
And then the kid's like, nah, I don't have to go. Like, and then you're arguing. No, you're like, I know you don't feel like you have to go, but you should just go. And it's like, nah, I don't have to go. And then you get half an hour on the highway. Dad, I gotta go.
Well, he forgot his Andre the Giant bucket this week, so that's part of the problem.
Oh, that was a good documentary. I feel like I need to watch that again.
Really? Second time around?
It was excellent.
Wow.
That and the Ric Flair documentary are like, if you're even remotely a wrestling fan, they're almost a must watch. Like, they are so good. And I always find it so compelling how broken these guys are. These heroes that you looked up to as a child, yet they're just such a fucking mess. Like, just a mess.
Like,
there's a similar documentary on Jake the Snake, and he's a whole boatload of fucked up, and it's just a life of alcohol and abuse and his kids that hate him, and yeah, it's really sad actually. But man, these guys you looked up to as a child, like none other.
It's funny being older. If you look back on some of that stuff, or even if you look at wrestling today, you can just see it on these people's faces that their life is just this hell where they're barely holding on. Yeah,
well. It's funny because it almost like I didn't I just stopped watching wrestling altogether ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it sucks now.
Yeah, it's really bad now.
Yeah, I can't get into it. Just can't.
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, like, during our era, especially, like, if you want to look at the Attitude Era, characters were a lot more fantastical, and now they all seem like frat boys. It's like the same thing over and over. Like, the fantasy is gone behind it. It's like we just accept it to be fake, and they're just like, oh, let's just bring in another college frat boy to do another.
Yeah, where's the big fantastic characters? They all just have regular names. What is that shit?
Well, I mean, fuck, man. I remember the Brood, which was like, not just necessarily the Brood, but like the Ministry of Darkness, like the whole group of characters that fell under the Undertaker, and like they were over the top, but they made your skin crawl. And like when that ring of fire lit up, and Gangrel and Christian and Edge like came up through the floor, like I would get goosebumps. You don't get that anymore. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are really into it and they love it, and I'm glad that they do. But for me, it lost me quite a few years ago, and I've tried really hard to get back into it. I've watched Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. I've watched TNA or whatever it is now, and I've tried. I'm like, I'm going to give you a chance again, and not once has it pulled me back in.
Yeah, I am with you. I am with you on that.
That's a shame. That's a shame. The Attitude Era was fun as hell.
It really was.
That's what it is. It's just like they were willing to push buttons back then, and now they're a little bit more PG. You know, like in the Attitude Era, like Stone Cold, for example, like dude did some crazy shit. And they probably every once in a while put something through on cable television that cable television was not okay with. And now they're like, no, we just can't and we won't. And they very much take a PG route through it all. So maybe that's what it is too. And
look at the crazy shit Mankind Mick Foley did.
Oh
like,
my God.
Holy fuck.
You mean Cactus Jack? Dude Love?
Like, oh my God, the things that, like the abuse he put his body through, getting slammed from the top of a cage or getting launched onto a table from the top of a cage. Like,
what about when he went through,
insane.
When he went through the cage, through the top of the cage, down to the mat that was covered in tacks. I'm like, insane. Are you fucking serious right now?
Insane.
You crazy son of a bitch. I mean, that was back at a time where I thought that every wrestler was on cocaine all the time. I'm like, he doesn't even feel that shit. And then you read the bio and he's like, I felt all that shit. Oh my God, damn it.
Yeah. You guys ever listen to the Stone Cold podcast?
Oh my God, it's so good.
It is. It's really good.
The Stone Cold podcast is really good. And then there's one with Christian and Edge. It's really good as well. Both of them obviously wrestling focused, but man, they just have a love for the guys that came at their time and especially before their time. Christian and Edge interviewed Jim Duggan, which was just a crazy interesting interview. Jim Duggan and being a hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh yeah.
For some of the youngins who might not remember, but both of those podcasts are so worth listening to.
There you go. Thanks for going to take a pee, Shawn, so we could talk wrestling a little bit more.
Hey, man, any time.
It started because we said you forgot your Andre the Giant bucket.
I have to admit, my bladder was actually pretty good when I was still driving a bus because I didn't have the chance to go to the bathroom whenever I needed to. But in that 5 months since, my bladder has shrunken again to appropriate levels of a toddler. So once I've got a single beer in me, I need to go to the bathroom every half hour. Sorry.
It's your inner old man coming out.
Oh, God.
Just you wait, buddy.
Well, you know, I mean, I'll be 41 this year. I mean, I can't imagine that I'm more than a year, maybe 2 years away from wearing diapers, Trevor.
It's coming for you. It's coming.
That's why Trevor hasn't had to get up during the podcast. He's like, I'm putting on a Depends, bitch. I'm good for the night.
I got to get up in the middle of the night to piss every single night. Like, and that's just nothing but old age. Like, I used I used to be able to sleep right through the night. No, now I got to get up at least once a night to take a piss at some point.
Just once?
Yeah.
Just once?
Well, it all depends if I've been in my cups the night before.
Oh my God.
There could be a couple of stops.
If I've been into the cups, it's like 3 minimum. God. Sucks. Getting old is just such bullshit.
Hey, on a side note, Shawn, your beloved Vegas Golden Knights just won Game 1.
Fuck me. I'm so mad about that.
God damn it.
Oh, I can't wait until they win it.
See, here's my thing. People can view this as like, oh, it's just a standard bitter Vancouver Canucks fan, to which I would probably agree with them. But I know a lot of people who are fans of franchises that have won many cups. You know what I mean? It's less about that and more about a system that would allow for an expansion team to win in their first year. I think an argument maybe needs to be made to be perfectly fair. An argument needs to be made where you go, well, you didn't protect the right players, I guess. Like, they picked the absolute best players, obviously, they could have picked.
So here's the other thing about the Golden Knights. Usually you've got a team. Here's the thing about that. Usually you've got a team, you've got a coach, you've got a system, and then you bring in the players and try to slot them into that system. The Knights didn't have to do that this year. They got to pick all the players. They picked all the best players. Got to sit down with each one of those guys and say, how do you want to play? How do you best play? And they built the system around the players. And it's undeniably effective. They have no defense to speak of, but they've got a great first pass out of the zone. And then they just streak end to end and score.
And it's speed. It's speed. Speed kills. This new NHL, man. Speed kills, and they've got speed. And fuck, they had a lot of guys that just kind of came out of nowhere, like that just had these monster years. Yep. Carlson, 40 goals. Who fucking saw that coming? Nobody saw that coming. No. So, but I completely get it. Like, I get the Canucks fans out there. Like, Vegas has no business winning the cup. They have not paid their dues, and that's ultimately, I think, what happened with the Knights is not so much who they drafted, but they also made a lot of smart trades. And I don't think the GM I don't think they planned properly for the expansion draft. And I don't think you'll see this when Seattle gets their team. I don't think you're going to see this happen again. I think other GMs will be smarter with who they keep and who they release, and they'll be smarter when it comes to all those trades that Vegas was able to make right around the time of the draft. They made a lot of trades that really benefited them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but,
I mean...
Fuck, we could talk for a half an hour about
I was just saying, like, I mean... yeah, you know what? I mean, I got a team that still hasn't won a cup, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm bitter about it, but that's my team. You know, it is what it is. I think I am definitely firmly in the camp of a team should not be able to contend in their first year. It's just not right. They need to go... And I mean, even people who are supporting them, they're making jokes about it, you know, and that like, oh, you know, we've struggled, you know, I've been a fan since the beginning,
I've seen that.
And here we are now, and I'm just like, and in my head I'm like, God damn, if you were in front of me, I would punch you in your face right now. I would hit you so fucking hard in your face. But, you know, whatever. I mean, it's a great story for the NHL too, in that, you know, it's forcing maybe people who might not pay attention to hockey to pay attention, so it is good for the sport. But as you know, forever disappointed Canuck fan, I'm like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Oh well, what do you do?
I guess
I want to see Ovi win the cup. I'm not even a big fan of the Caps, but
neither.
The guy deserves a cup.
He does.
So
he does.
It doesn't look like he's going to get it. To be fair, I don't think they're going to do it.
Well, it's early. It's just one game. I mean, it's early.
A lot of the pundits, a lot of the big people are calling it Vegas in 5. So.
I know. I see that.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just going to continue drinking my beer.
Yeah.
My Bomber Brewing, actually, pale ale. I'm just going to drown my sorrows in a little bit of Bomber Brewing pale ale.
Delicious. We kind of went off the rails a bit, so I think we're going to hold the email until next week to avoid this becoming like a million years long.
I need to think about this one.
Yeah, me too. We're gonna go straight to the perfect list.
Let's do it.
What's our perfect list?
Well, since E3 is usually the time of year when companies decide to dig up the past and bring some old franchises back, I thought we'd review the 10 perfect video game franchise comebacks that have already happened.
Okay, we're not allowed to predict the future here.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, we did that while you were gone. We predicted the future. It's set in stone.
Is this spurred on somewhat by the fact that no one gave a fuck about Rage and now everybody's got their dicks hard for Rage 2?
Yeah.
It could have something to do with that.
I mean,
can you even call it a comeback when they only had one game before it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess if that one game was terrible, but you can't call Rage terrible.
No, Rage is a good game. Rage is actually a really good game. It kind of flew under the radar, but visually it was really good. I don't think it necessarily ruffled any feathers in terms of innovation, but it was still a very serviceable shooter. I liked it. I thought it was actually pretty rad.
Yeah, I don't think it would hold up that well today. It was one of those ones from that era.
I do know some people who picked it up recently, in the wake of the announcement of Rage 2, are like, I'm going to go back in. And everybody says that they enjoyed it. They're just, they do see the shortcomings of the game.
Yeah.
But the fact that at the time it came out that it completely pretty much went under the radar to be, possibly considered a flop, I don't know. It didn't do as well as people thought it would, but it's still a very serviceable, pretty enjoyable, and I mean, for its time, absolutely gorgeous game.
All right.
To the list we go.
Yeah, I think you got to go first, Shawn. You've had a lot of weeks off, buddy.
Yes. You get that fourth pick.
Okay, so sorry. So we're looking at 10 perfect
video game franchise comebacks.
The return of the video game. Okay. Okay.
10 perfect comeback stories.
If I want any never mind. If I want any comeback out of you, but that's a dirty joke. So, I am going to go with something that's probably predictable for me, but I really love the game and the series. I'm going to go with Tomb Raider.
It's a good pick. I mean, that reboot was fantastic.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like they're losing any steam at this point either.
No.
We're going into the third now in the reboot trilogy. And man, they've just stepped it up every game. And I mean, not that the originals were bad, they just seemed like an antiquated game. Like, all right, we had our fun with the Tomb Raider series and now we're moving on to other things. And they were like, no, actually we're not quite done with it. And I mean, Lara now is a much more relatable character. Much more sort of true to life type character, and less fantastical, less over the top. So
less triangular.
Yeah, a lot less pointy boobed. We'll say, but still though too. I mean, just as a character, Lara is definitely a lot more mature now, in comparison to years ago. So, and yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who say a lot of bad things about the Tomb Raider series at this point.
Nope, nobody. Because they're pretty damn good.
Good pick.
Perfect, you might say.
Do you want to go next, Trev? Do you want me to go?
Sure, I can go. I've got mine locked and loaded.
Ooh. All right.
I am going to go with a 2016 favorite of the pod. I know all three of us quite enjoyed this particular game. I want to say it was in the running for Game of the Year when we recorded at the end of 2016, but I am going to go with Doom. And I'm mainly going to go with it because I think before 2016's Doom, we had Doom BFG edition in 2012, and I don't think that was well received at all. And so I think, for me, 2016's Doom was a big comeback for the franchise. Everybody loved it. It was fucking bananas and really well received, and I think it's a great comeback story for a franchise. And if there's any publisher that knows how to do comebacks properly, it is Bethesda.
Absolutely.
And yeah, Doom's getting my pick.
And it was in fact COG's 2016 Game of the Year.
Oh, was it our game of the year? I knew it was right up there.
Yeah. We fought pretty hard, and you guys just would not let me put Hitman at the top.
Oh,
and that's the story there.
Nobody had Hitman at the top. We just couldn't allow that.
Paul had it at the top. Come on, we can respect his opinion.
Nobody loved Hitman more than Paul.
That's probably true. I do truly love that game. I can't wait to see what those guys come up with.
You know what? And it feels like, at this E3, I wouldn't be surprised if we heard about another Hitman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kind of feels... Timing feels right. You don't think so?
Nope.
Not even a teaser?
Nope. No, nothing.
Right.
We will not see Hitman at E3. No. No. No.
I can't accept that.
I feel like Shawn has insider information at the moment.
No,
I have
no
revealing.
information. I just, to be honest, Hitman has had, in the wake of the last game, people have come around. And I'm still I hear conversations now talking about a game that was released 2 years ago, because they released the complete edition and everything else.
Yeah.
It's spoken about very fondly, and people are like, people missed out on this. And I'm fully on board with that. I totally agree. People probably missed out on a very captivating game, but it's not at the point where that franchise is just not at the point right now where they could come out and make an announcement and have anybody care. I don't think anybody would care.
I'd like to be wrong. Shawn,
I'd like to be wrong.
It depends.
I am of the mindset that where I don't wish any game and or franchise anything but success. So I would love to be wrong and have it come out and have it announced and people go, "Fuck yeah, Hitman!" But no one's going to do that.
You'd hear me yelling that's for sure.
It'll be only
all right,
you,
Paul.
It'll
only
just
you.
be me.
You're up.
That's all right. Yeah. For my first pick, I'm gonna go with Fallout.
Which Fallout?
Fallout 3. Because Fallout 1 was kind of that cult classic, and then 2 and Tactics maybe a little less loved, and then it just kind of died for a good bunch of years, and then came back with a vengeance with that incredible E3 trailer and E3 demo where it was blowing people's minds out their ears. And Fallout 3, fantastic game. Fallout
still blows minds, man. I still love that trailer.
Mm-hmm. And the game too. I mean, it's kind of become popular to hate on Fallout 3 and say that it's not a great game, but it is truly a fantastic game.
What?
Oh, you haven't been on YouTube lately then.
What?
People love to shit on Fallout 3.
What? Why?
Something about the story being too linear and not having enough choice, which is absolutely not the case.
That's a great fucking game.
Yeah. It's a true role-playing game.
I honestly think that it was ahead of its time in terms of being able to offer choice. And maybe it doesn't stack up to games now, however many years later, but obviously it wouldn't.
So
I want to fight some people who say Fallout 3 is a bad game. I want to fight those fuckers.
Yeah, the thing about Fallout 3, which I mentioned in the Slack not that long ago, is it's one of the only role-playing games in a long, long time that incentivizes you for playing both sides of the game. You know, the Mass Effects and so on kind of want you to go full Paragon or full Renegade. But Fallout 3, it incentivized you with a bunch of perks and stuff to stay right down the middle.
To find that some balance.
Exactly, and take each choice as just a choice, not picking a solution because it's the good option or the bad option.
And it's true, because you tend to lean that way. I mean, I find in games that I play where I go like, does this suit the way that I've already been playing, or is this the way that I really want to answer this question? And I always tend to teeter towards I've already been making it in this direction, I might as well continue in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's no incentive to just go, this time I really don't want to do that. I want to kind of keep it more towards the middle. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get that. I don't get why anybody would hate on Fallout 3. They're wrong. Those people are wrong.
Shawn, you are up.
Am I up?
You are up.
All right. This one's actually not too hard for me. I was always a big fan of the Mortal Kombat series, but it went through a good few years of people not giving a shit about Mortal Kombat. And then Mortal Kombat, I guess technically it would have been 9. Mortal Kombat 2011 came out and just kind of reinvigorated the franchise. That's when they added the X-ray moves. And those things were just brutal as fuck. And it just kind of brought back that visceral Mortal Kombat that everybody remembered, from back in the Pixel days. It actually had a half decent sort of story that you could kind of play through. And I mean, it looked gorgeous for its time as well. So it kind of brought them back to the forefront. And you look at Mortal Kombat now, and it's pretty much, again, pretty much one of the premier fighting franchises out there. And for a good number of years, it had lost it.
Absolutely.
It had lost it. So MK9, I'd say, was the resurgence for the MK franchise.
Good pick.
That
good pick.
is a good pick. Trev.
Well, another franchise that kind of lost its way a little over 10 years ago, which is going to be making a big comeback again this year. Well, they made a big comeback in 2008, and that is Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Is a fucking fantastic game. Before that, we had Spider-Man Friend or Foe, which was hot garbage. And I know my daughter loved that game, but
no,
she was 5.
That
she
game
was 5.
Hot garbage. I'm with
she
you.
She was 5 years old, so 5-year-olds aren't as picky as we are. And then before that was Spider-Man 3, which also stunk. So Web of Shadows really brought Spider-Man back into the fold. It had really good combat, really good web slinging mechanics, and
that one was
I really enjoyed that one.
That one was Beanox.
I think Treyarch.
Wasn't it Beanox that did Web of Shadows?
I'd have to look it up.
I
want to say it was Treyarch.
Googling some shit. Spider-Man Beanox.
Web of Shadows. They might have done.
Oh, they did Shattered Dimensions. Spider-Man. They did Shattered Dimensions. I like that game too. But Web of Shadows was fucking badass.
But yeah, they're that's who I'm going with.
Cool.
Web of Shadows.
I would venture, at least from what we've seen, that our next iteration of Spider-Man is going to be pretty fucking impressive too.
I think that's a safe bet.
Safe bet. Sony's been hitting it out of the park, so I don't think they're going to fuck up now.
It looks pretty good. And
pretty good, as Larry David might say.
Yep. Ooh, hey.
Crack.
I wonder who that might be.
No idea.
The resident alcoholics back, fellas. Oh
boy. I'm gonna go with Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
14.
Yep.
14.
Yep.
Explain yourself.
Well, they released Final Fantasy 14 and it was a hot pile of trash. So then they remade it. And the second version was better. So much better.
They remade it.
Yeah. So this comeback story is a comeback in the same title.
Fuck, that's a little too meta for me to handle.
Well, I mean, it's hard to ignore because it's one of the most popular MMOs out there, and it's the level of fan service in FF14 is rivaled by none because it's absurd.
You know that gif of the dude like he's got like a bad mullet but he's balding on the top with glasses, like he looks like a scientist, and it's just him with both of his hands doing like the whole mind blown thing.
Yeah.
That's me right now with your choice of Final Fantasy 14.
Oh yeah.
But I'm understanding your argument, but I just wouldn't have expected it. So I'm officially mind blown right here, right now.
Sometimes subverting expectations is what has to happen.
It's true. It's true.
And Shawn, it is back to you for your second to last pick.
Well, this one, this one's actually it's not as hard as I thought it would be. I was like really, when he announced this category, I was kind of dreading right away. I'm like, fuck me, I'm not going to be able to think of anything. But apparently I can. How about Donkey Kong Country?
Oh.
It had been over a decade since we'd seen anything from Donkey Kong, and we're talking about NES era Donkey Kong. And then we get this, like, for its time, absolutely gorgeous side-scrolling game, basically something that we'd never expected from Donkey Kong. And it took him from being the villain, being the bad guy, into probably one of the most beloved characters that Nintendo, has the rights to at this point. I mean, obviously they're still making games with Donkey Kong, so I would say that Donkey Kong Country pretty much brought that stupid monkey back to the forefront.
I would agree.
Yep.
There you go. That's my third perfect pick.
Absolutely perfect.
Perfect.
Trevor Houston.
I am going to go with Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. And the reason being is I feel like people were... I feel like the franchise had gotten stale.
Trev, don't mince words. RE6 sucked. It was bad.
Well, and I was thinking of Revelations, how bad that was in 2015.
Oh my god. Yeah. Even more so.
And when 7 came to the scene, it scared the fuck out of me. Like, that game legit scared the fuck out of me. And I feel like it was fantastic, and it was well received, and it really put the franchise back on the map. So, I'm going Resident Evil 7, because it just scared the fucking bejesus out of me.
I feel like if it scared the bejesus out of you, that it would literally cause me to shit my pants.
Oh yeah, you can't play that. You just don't.
Wait.
Oh,
you can't.
Man.
You can't play that. You wouldn't be able to handle just opening a door in that a creaky door, like, and there's bad guys thumping around upstairs. Like, oh yeah.
You're so right. Like, seriously, it's funny. Like, most games that scare me, it's not about what I'm actually presented with. It's literally the anticipation of what I'm just afraid of to begin with. I don't want to open the door. But you don't even know if there's anything scary behind the door, Shawn. Just open it. No, I don't want to.
I'll just hide here.
Okay, wait, you have a PSVR, though. How have we not made this video yet?
Oh, because it's a bad idea and I'm a sissy?
Oh, this is a really, really good idea.
I'm all about the entertainment for the people, and if this is something that we would like to pursue in video form at a later date, I volunteer as tribute.
Sounds like a plan.
We need to make that happen
before you move. Let's get it done.
Well, can invite you guys over for the weekend. We're putting up the new house. I'm already calling contractors. We're getting like an amazing deck built out back where we're going to have a hot tub. It's going to be wired for sound with outdoor speakers and a beautiful fire table, so natural gas run in. We're literally going to build ourselves the most beautiful outdoor backyard oasis. So I'm inviting the both of you and your respective others to come visit me there. And then why don't we record it at my house?
I think we just need to make that happen.
You're like, that actually sounds like a pretty good fucking idea.
Shit. All right. I guess that makes it my turn.
Your last
number
pick.
9.
Make it a good one.
Make it not suck.
I'm gonna go with Ratchet and Clank.
As in, like, the resurgence, like the PS4 version?
Yep.
Ratchet and Clank?
Yep, the recent one. Because
that game is fucking awesome.
It is. It truly is. I mean, if Mario Odyssey hadn't come out since that, it'd probably be my favorite 3D platformer.
I believe I actually reviewed that for COG before I left.
I believe you did, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you did.
And it just, they didn't really waver much from the original story per se, but it was an example of exactly where we were with visuals. You know what I mean? Like, with what you could do with the machines that we're playing with now, because I remember they did like the pro enhanced type version or whatnot, and playing it in 4K and going like, oh my god, like this is not what I would have ever expected out of a Ratchet and Clank game ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the gameplay proper didn't really change that much. You know what I mean? It really stood the test of time, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it controlled really tightly, and it had that snarky humor. A few years off from hearing that every year or every E3, really did it wonders. So, yeah, I think that comeback is very solid.
Yeah. I kind of wish that more people had actually latched onto that one. I don't remember hearing a lot of people talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good game.
Yeah, I feel like it came out at a busy time of year, and a lot of people just kind of glossed over.
Well, hey, it's harder and harder to make an impact now, man. I mean, there are literally thousands of games, not hundreds of games anymore that come out in a year, but thousands. So you really got to break through the noise now to make an impact. It's not easy.
All right, Shawn, give us perfect pick number 4.
The last pick.
The last of the last?
No
pressure here, right? No, you know what? This is actually a pretty easy choice, I'd say. How about Wolfenstein: The New Order?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's a great pick.
Hell yeah.
You hadn't thought about Wolfenstein forever, and then suddenly they dropped the New Order and then onto the new Colossus. And I mean, that game is fucking bonkers.
It sure is.
So fucking good. It is literally bonkers. And I mean, let's move forward into the new Colossus too, though. And I mean, that game is... it's harder than it needs to be.
Yeah,
I did go down to can I play daddy mode, I'll admit.
It's another Bethesda game where they take these franchises that were struggling. Like the last Wolfenstein we had was 2009, and that one was garbage. So, yeah, they managed to just turn it around. Like, whatever they're doing, they've got that fucking successful formula.
Sure do.
You have to admit that right now, I mean, they are kind of the golden boys.
God, are they ever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the reception. I mean, when there was that stupid, the Walmart leak where it's like, hey, we're Walmart, we just ruined video game Christmas, and, fuck E3. A lot of games kind of just got glossed over at that point because they announced a lot more than Rage 2. But what kind of got latched onto after that whole fucking blow the lid off of everything, people were like, well, I'm actually pretty hyped up. I mean, whether or not people actually believe that, who knows? But you suddenly had a lot of people that were really kind of touting how much they loved the original Rage. And then obviously, Bethesda was super smart the way they built on that. They obviously pushed their ad campaigns significantly forward. This was supposed to be announced a lot later. And then they went on this 2-week long, quick ad campaign to the point where when they revealed the actual gameplay video for Rage 2, people were fucking hyped up. Bethesda can do no wrong. Until they fuck up again. And then
they handled that situation as better than anyone could have expected.
Well, they did, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Pete Hines is just fucking amazing. That guy speaks what's on his mind. He doesn't put up with anybody's bullshit. I've seen him call people out and basically be like, hey, guess what? Fuck you. Pete Hines does not fucking care. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of, even though Rage wasn't necessarily critically or I would say more so, consumers did not receive it well. It didn't sell a lot of copies. Bethesda's managed to build a name, especially over the past few years, that when they say something, people pay attention. Yes, okay, wow, they're banking on a second Rage. Rage wasn't that good. They're banking on another one. Holy shit, they must have really learned their lesson, and they're going to blow it out of the water. People are genuinely, super fucking excited for that game. I mean, I'm one of them. Don't get me wrong. That initial... Did you guys see the teaser that they did? The day before they dropped the gameplay trailer. They did, the live action teaser, and I was like... I remember, honestly, I stood back and I'm like... I don't know about this neon bullshit. I'm not sold. And then the next day they dropped the actual gameplay trailer, and I was like, well, fuck me, they got my money. They got my money.
Big fucking guns.
Oh yeah, take my fucking money. Like it wasn't even a considerate. I was 30 seconds into the trailer before I'm like, Karen, I need to pre-order this game.
All right, Trev, close us out.
No, that's it. That was it. That was
Really?
our 10.
Oh yeah, was it?
I'm pretty sure that's
Let me
10.
count. 1,
You've been
2,
typing
3,
them.
4,
You've been
5,
you've been
6,
typing
7,
them out as we
9, 10.
called them, right?
I've been
Oh, yeah, that
writing
is
them
10.
down. We got
That is
10.
10. Yep. Wow.
Math is hard. Math
Oh,
is
there
really
you go.
fucking hard.
That's a great last pick then, Shawn.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah.
So what was it? Let's go back through the list, please.
Let's go back through
For
the
the
list.
listeners.
What do we got? We've got Wolfenstein: The New Order, the Tomb Raider reboot, Resident Evil 7, Doom, Fallout 3, Ratchet and Clank, Donkey Kong Country, Mortal Kombat 9, Final Fantasy 14, and Spider-Man: Web of Shadows.
Great list.
That's a pretty respectable list, as perfect lists go.
Perfect, you might say.
Well, I mean, that's what we call it.
There's a reason for that, because we can do no wrong.
Have we, I mean, now that we are ending, this is probably another epic length cast.
It's a power cast for sure.
Mm-hmm. Holy shit, yeah, this is definitely a power cast. I just clued in on the time here. Have we, recently, given Alex Thomas a chore to do?
No, we haven't.
No?
He's probably looking for something to do, if I had to guess.
That would be pretty perfect.
One perfect task.
One perfect task?
Perfect employee.
As tasks go, there's not very many tasks that are perfect, but this would be a perfect task for our perfect boy, Alex, hashtag middle name, Perfect Thomas.
Well, he's always up for a perfect challenge.
He's up for a pretty perfect challenge. I mean, if we're going to issue this challenge, we need to talk about perfect from way back 15 minutes ago too. I mean, no perfect goes untouched.
I like it.
It wouldn't be a perfect count
perfect.
if you hadn't listened from the perfect point in the perfect cast
For every
when dealing
perfect
with the perfect list.
time that we decided to say perfect.
Right now he's listening. He's like, you guys are assholes. Assholes.
Mostly me. He's like, Shawn, you've been gone for 3 weeks. I didn't have to do this shit. Now that you're back, and suddenly it's like perfect. And he's like, well, fuck you. This ain't perfect anymore. But I think it's actually kind of perfect.
I'd call it perfect.
Pretty much perfect. Can we do? I'm gonna look at the clock here. We're running up to. All right. How about 10 seconds of just dropping a perfect whenever you feel like a perfect needs to be mentioned? Now. So there's this perfect list that we do, and it's perfect in absolutely perfect every way, because perfect, absolutely 100% perfect. Alex Perfect Thomas will never perfect, and perfect time.
Perfect.
We're so sticks.
I like how Trev and I were basically whispering, so it's going to be very difficult. He's going to have to be... Shawn, your voice is going to be 10,000 decibels in his ear to hear what we're talking about.
And he's gonna do you think he has the knowledge to be able to all right, I'm gonna pull Shawn out of the equation. I'm gonna listen for Paul and Trevor on their in silence. I think he's got a challenge in front of him this time.
I think Alex is just going to pull a random number out, and we're just going to roll with it.
And we'll
you guys said it 123 times.
And that's going to do it for episode 19 of Press X to Podcast. If you liked what you heard, if you haven't done it already, give us a 5 stars on iTunes. I never know what iTunes is. 5 stars? Give us 5 stars.
Preferably 5
Give us a
stars.
review. Share the cast all over the place. Get on the Facebook group so Shawn can insult your intelligence. I promise that he will do that.
I would never.
Yes, you would.
I don't do that.
Don't give me that shit. You would.
I probably would.
Yeah. So, until next time, thank you very much for listening. And we will see you next week, the week before E3, the scariest week of the year. We'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.